Hello, this tutorial will cover how to use a panel and a graphic, combine two 3D models and minimize the machining time. So we're going to go ahead, come over here, we're going to create a new project. It's going to be 24 in the X, 12 in the Y, and 0.75 in the Z. We'll hit OK. We'll come over to clip art and we'll go ahead, you should have all of these. If you click on something, stylized words, if nothing shows up down here, you can just right click on it and click download, and then down at the bottom it's downloading all those things into your computer. So we're going to start out with a panel. If you don't have the panels, you can right click and download them, and then the next time you click on it, all those things will be there. So we'll click on panels. I'm going to come down here and we'll grab panel 22. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the three-dimensional model and drag it in there. I'm going to go ahead and center that to my material. I'm going to come over here and select that object. I'm going to unlink the X and Y. I'm going to adjust this to be 23 wide and 11 tall so that it fits my project size. Go ahead and hit close. Now it's easy to come in here. I can grab an animal. I've been using the Chinese dragon. I can kind of come in here and drop that in there. And same thing, I'll grab the dragon is selected. I'll center the dragon on there. You can see the dragon kind of overlaps with the panel. So I will select the dragon and then set object size. This time I want to keep the X and Y. I want to keep these proportions the same. And I'll just change this height down to 10 and hit apply. Still interfering. Come down to 9.5 and hit apply. It's getting really close. I've got the center as my anchor, so it's kind of shrinking down about the center point. It's not getting it out of place at all. So we'll just come down to 9 inches and hit apply. And there we go. So now my dragon's not touching the panel. So the problem we run into, daisy, everything. There we go. Is if I come in here and do the, okay, that's good. If I select the model boundary to machine all this, and I use the 1/4 inch end mill to do the roughing, it's going to kind of rough everywhere, like you would expect. But all of this is already flat, and I don't need it to rough it again. And it gets even worse when we come in and we do the 3D finishing. With the 1/8 inch ball nose, we do the model boundary and hit calculate. It's going to take that 1/8 inch bit and go over absolutely everything. And it'll look real nice, but if you check out the time for machining, you can see we're up to almost 6 hours. Okay, so the challenge is how to separate those two pieces. So I'm going to turn off the toolpaths. Is to have the panel and the dragon not be the same thing, and to only machine the parts that I want machined, and not to machine everything else. So what we're going to do is we've got these two things in here. We're going to come into the modeling tab, and we can see that the Chinese dragon and the panel are on the same level. First thing we're going to do is right click on the dragon, and we're going to move the dragon to its own level, to level 2, so that those two things are separated. You can also see we've got a little bit of weirdness here in the colors. So we're going to look at the heights and make sure that the heights are what we want. I'm going to right click on the properties of the dragon. I can see that the dragon is 0.5906 tall and it should be up at the top of the material. Yeah, I think it's just the panel that's cutting over that makes it look weird, but that shouldn't be a problem. The next thing I'll do is I'm going to right click on the panel, and you can see that the panel comes down a certain bit, and then there's nothing underneath the panel. So I'm going to right click on the properties of the panel. I'm going to make the panel a little bit thicker. We'll change that to 0.25. And you can see it kind of thickened that raise, and then the base height of the panel. I'm going to add that up to, I'm going to add in 0.5 so that it becomes 0.75, and now the panel goes all the way down. So that's my entire panel. I still have the problem, though, that if I try to machine this, it sees all of this as the panel. The dragon, you can come in here and delete both of those. When I do the material setup, we want to have the gap. Yeah, for the dragon, that's fine. Hit OK. If I do the model boundary, it's going to do everything again. But we can come in here. Now that these are on two different levels, I can hit selected level for the dragon and pick level 2, because that's where the dragon is. And if I hit calculate there, now you can see it just does where the dragon is. It doesn't do everything. And then if we add in the finishing tool path and we do it by level and pick level 2 for the dragon, once again, it just does over the dragon rather than everything. So that'll give us an excellent quality finish tool path, but it's going to be a whole lot less time. We're only up to an hour and a half doing this section. The hard part is if we try to do that same strategy for the panel, I can select level 1, because that's where the panel is, but it still sees all of that flat material as the panel. And you guessed it, when we add in the finishing tool path for the panel, if we go back to level 1 and calculate that, it's going to take that 1/8 inch bit over absolutely everything all over again. Even though they're different models, it still sees all of that as model 1. Please hold on while I exit building for file drill. Okay, so we can see that putting it on a different level works for the dragon, but it does not work for the panel, because it sees the entire panel as the 3D object. When really and truly we don't need to machine the entire panel, we just need to machine the edges. So for the panel, what we need to do, we'll go back to the drawing, go back to the 2D view. I'm looking just at the drawing, and I'm going to come over here to trace bitmap, and that's going to put a preview. It's going to put a line around that section. And if I slide this up, if I go all the way, it gets everything, but I'm going to scoot it back just a hair until I get the entire thickness of the panel. I'll click on preview, and it says that those are the two borders, and I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. I'm going to close out of that. Now I've got a vector on the inside of the panel and a vector on the outside of the panel. So I'm going to select those two. I'm going to right click and group back onto original layer. So I've got two vectors by themselves. Now that I have those two vectors, and I tried to come down here to the panel, and I try to use the panel, whichever one I'm on, I guess I'm on 22. I tried to use this vector and expand it out, and it just never worked. The best way to do it was the trace. But now I can come in, and I've forgotten which one was which. Look at the, okay, so those are for the panel, and then these two are for that's the roughing for the dragon and the finish for the dragon, and this is the roughing for the panel and the finish for the panel. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to delete those, and we'll start over again. Now that I've got these two vectors, I can come in here for my roughing. And instead of doing it by level, instead of doing the model boundary, which says everything, now I can do selected vectors, and I can select those two vectors as the limits of where I'm going to machine. And then we'll go ahead, this is going to do a 3D raster. See if we can do Z level. See if that will go. Okay, let's see if I need to edit this. Past depth. I'm not sure what that error is. Selected vector. We'll change this to make this a little bit smaller. Oops, the past depth a little bit smaller. 0.1. See if that fixes it. Z level. Okay, it's still kind of doing that. Let me go ahead, come back to it, and just do the 3D raster. Calculate that. There we go. So that's going to do the roughing, and it's just going to do it just in between our vector boundaries. We'll get back in here real quick and change this back to the past depth to 3.25 and recalculate that. Okay. Close out of that. We'll do the finishing toolpath. Same thing with the finishing toolpath. We're going to use those two as our boundaries. So selected vectors. This one will do the offset, so it'll go around the edges. Calculate that one. And you can see it's going to do a bunch around the edges, but it's missing this whole area in the middle. So it's not going to be super quick by any stretch, but if we have all those selected, we'll do the preview, reset the preview, do all the toolpaths. You can see we get a really excellent finish on the dragon, and we get a really good finish on the profile of the base as well. The last thing we need to add would be a profile toolpath around everything. We can just select this outermost vector as our profile. We can go through here and 3 tool passes. It's just a little over 0.25 each time. 0.78. We can add tabs now. There's a vertical part on here. We can add tabs. We can make them, depending upon what height we did it in the modeling, we can make those tabs that same height or whatever size we want to. We'll put tabs here on the edges. And then we will calculate that. And then when we go ahead, reset the preview, preview all toolpaths. And not only do we get a good dragon, we also get a good panel. We get a excellent profile with tabs, and we check the time. Instead of being up at 6 hours, we're down to 3 hours. So we've cut our time in half. If you have any questions, just email me. Have a great day.